What if the reason change feels hard is not because you lack discipline or clarity, but because your body does not feel safe enough to change? Today, we're going to explore an approach that puts the body and nervous system at the center of change. We want to understand what that means, where it appears to help, and where it may or may not apply. Our guest is Jenny Cohen. Jenny works in the area of embodiment and neurosomatic coaching, drawing from her background in occupational therapy, movement, and performance. Her work has resonated with people who feel stuck despite receiving insight or effort, particularly during periods of transition. And today we want to better understand her perspective and her experience. So, Jenny, welcome. And what I want to know first is when people come to you feeling stuck, disconnected, or overwhelmed, how do you begin to understand what is actually going on beneath the surface with them?
Thank you for having me, everyone. Oftentimes, my clients show up and they don't even really know where to start. And I often recommend that if they're losing time during the day or finding themselves often unable to say no, even though they're burning the candle in the middle besides both ends, that the quickest thing for them is to immediately get present. And one of the tools that my clients usually get is just to tune into the five senses, tune into whether or not they're even breathing on a consistent basis. And once they can get into the present moment, then we can start looking at how full their day is and whether or not there's any permission for them to do self care. Most people who are burning themselves out don't even give themselves permission for self care.
All right. Thank you, Jenny, and look forward to diving deeper in here with you. I want to take a moment to remind our listeners and viewers that you are watching WellWave Now, and this is where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path.
Yeah, so welcome to the show, Jenny. And most people are doing the right things. They're reading, they're reflecting, they're trying to improve habits, but yet the progress still feels inconsistent. Before we talk about the outcomes, we want to clarify, just how you think about the problem itself. So my first question, Jenny, is from your perspective, why do some people struggle and they can't translate that awareness that they need to make a change or the motivation that they need to make a change to actually sustaining the change?
Breck, I want to share a story with you for my husband. I've been married to my husband for almost 35 years, and he's one of the most disciplined men I've ever met. This is a man that gets up every morning about 4 o'clock and goes to work out, so he's at his desk by 7 a.m. You would think he would be very in touch with his body. And yet, recently, something happened with his salary at work, and he disconnected and ended up with a second of within the last 15 years bowel obstruction. And in his recovery, it's been very difficult for him to come back in his body and to shift the way he was almost overly disciplined in his self care and to tune in more into his body. Oftentimes, we can use and hide behind the discipline of self care without tuning into the body. There's ways of asking yourself, does this even serve me anymore? Some of it even is backed by research like applied kinesiology. So oftentimes, if you're not present and you're just doing rote things because you've told yourself that's supposed to be better for me, and yet certain stages in our lives, if you hit menopause or even menopause, where you're having decreased hormones in the body and we're not tuning into those shifts, or maybe you might be developing some light form of sleep apnea and we're not getting the sleep and rest and we're not checking in, we'll miss all the signs of us going of your body and yourself, your health suffering.
Yeah, you touched on a real important key there, and with that example of your husband, there was a stressful event, right, that kind of triggered things. And so, what role do you believe the nervous system has and the body, for knowing that you have these issues that you need to address? Evidently, the nervous system plays a big role.
Yes, there has to be a clarity though. The nervous system is always working whether or not you acknowledge you're in stress or not. And it is your invisible network that helps you have this sense of safety. Even if you're not in safety or you've never been in safety or you may have had unsafe situations when you're a child and you haven't had the freedom to acknowledge those unsafe situations. All right. And the key is to even understand where your baseline is. Science has now proven that when you wake up in the morning, your brain is flooded with cortisol. That's your wake up stage. We start off in a stress off state. I think very few people know that. The common knowledge of things that are healthy stress versus traumatic or accumulated stress and its effect on the nervous system needs to be better understood. It is normal for your nervous system to go up and down in levels of being triggered. What's not normal is your inability to manage the after effects of it being triggered.
Okay, very good. And everyone's kind of at a different stage too. So, how does this show up differently across, the different stages of life, such as young adults that are, finding direction, or middle life, they're maybe reassessing their identity or their purpose, or even caregivers under, chronic demands?
That's such a good question. And there is, for me, I've found amongst all my different clients, there are some universal check-in questions I want to ask everyone, including the three of you men on this panel with me. Health is number one. If you have no health, you have no access to anything else. It does not matter how much money you have in the bank. All right. And when I say health, I mean like your, dare I say the taboo word, your sexual health. Okay. Your outward appearances of health, your ability to recover after workout, even your wish to do a workout. We're going far beyond the definitions of are you an extrovert or an introvert? What is your natural resting energy state? My husband, again, we'll go back to him, right? We realize, oh my gosh, he starts getting sleepy about 4 p.m. now. And we didn't realize that he had severe sleep apnea. We never even entered into our minds. He's not overweight. He's super healthy. Pretty bad sleep apnea. And once we had him set up, he was like, you're snoring. And I went, no, I don't snore. He's like, yeah, you snore. So then he had me checked out, and I had worse sleep apnea than my husband. So outward appearances of health, oftentimes you need to push and prod a tiny bit more for your health care people to take you seriously about why you're not necessarily recovering quicker than you need to. I have fraternal twins in their mid-20s. One of them has sleep apnea, never knew. We just on a whim had her tested. She has severe sleep apnea as I do. She's in her 20s, okay? Even the rate of stress now, forget about environmental stressors on all of us. The rate of breast cancer, because I'm a breast cancer survivor, the age of breast cancer is dropping now into the 50s and 60s that are receiving, and those rates are going up. So I ask for your simple enough question, right? How do you know? Your health has to be checked on. I know most of the audience members may not have full health coverage for blood work being done. Understand those markers are now shifting, though, about what's healthy and what's not. For men and women, whether or not you're supposed to have levels of estrogen and testosterone tested, we should all have those levels tested. My husband has his estrogen levels tested because of the testosterone replacement therapy he's on, because testosterone will end up turning into some levels of estrogen, correct? And he had testicular cancer, and he was told for years, the one organ you still have left is appropriate for you. And then we discovered it wasn't. It wasn't. That it's actually supposed to be higher levels as he ages. And he trains at triathlete levels. And he never knew until his T levels were back to normal, like higher than normal, that his recovery was faster. His muscle mass came back. His mind clarity came back. So I ask you, what are the levels of health for your particular age? What is normal? And make sure that you're checking in with yourself. Are they for you?
When you said come back into your body, maybe you can explain what you mean by that. What does it mean for somebody to come back into their body? I'm just curious.
I'm very curious. I want to ask you something. How often do you check in with your body on what you're eating?
A
And
lot.
okay, how?
I monitor it at every meal. I know exactly what I'm eating at every meal. I think about it. I prepare it. I
Yes,
watch my ingredients.
I love it. And do you ask your body how it feels after it eats?
I don't ask my body how it feels after it eats.
Do you check in with your body about the ingredients? Are you maximizing what your body actually needs? Because this is your mind going, oh, I need this and this and this. This is the good, and I'm going to ingest it. And then is there a check in with your body afterwards?
I'm usually pretty satisfied.
Yes, though. When I ask you to check in, for example, my husband's like, Jenny, you're so woo, but it really works. I'm like, I know, that's why you're doing it. So there needs, for me, and I've noticed for my clients and my whole family, when we do check-ins through applied kinesiology, which is just asking your body through yes, no questions, the form of muscle testing I'm referring to, now there's more research where the increased efficacy is on par with muscle, like actual testing from physical therapists, like in the SI joint, whether or not it's in alignment.
So Jenny, I eat an apple.
Mhm.
What am I supposed to ask my body? Hey, do you like the vitamin A in the apple? I don't remember that. Or what am I so how am I supposed to talk to it, Jenny? Come on.
Tim, Tim, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, right? And how many hours of sleep do you normally sleep?
I don't know. I'm one of those old time two sleep periods. Like they used to say people used to get one sleep and the second sleep. So my first sleep is probably 5, 6 hours. My second sleep is then 3 to 4 hours after I get up and do a little.
Okay, so you do like without getting too much into detail, do you go to sleep before 10 p.m.?
Sometimes I don't have a regular time. It's when I it's when I go off.
Okay. All right. So then when I ask you to muscle test yourself, like you would ask your body, am I getting an adequate amount of sleep?
Okay, hold on a second. I got to interrupt here. You're saying things that I'm not sure our audience is clued into, and I'm not clear either about when you say you muscle test your body. How are you, there's a lot of ways to muscle test.
Yeah.
How do you do it? What are you referring to? How would
Yeah,
you
let's do it.
advise
Yeah,
people listening to do it?
that's question two first, Eddie. Question one still goes back to when you asked about talking about Bob's poor eating habits and how he's
Hey,
supposed to
Tim, you're not allowed
ask
to
his
get
body.
defensive for Bob. He can get defensive on his own. Go ahead.
And Tim knows how to razz me.
So how was Dr. Bob supposed to talk to his body after he eats a bowl of spaghetti? What's he supposed to say? Body, do you like these carbs? Or what's he supposed to ask the body, Jenny?
All right. First of all, I want you to open up to the possibility that because we have neurons that are similar in the brain, in your heart and your gut, body has actually an intelligence to it. Let's make sure that we're on the same understanding, right? Okay. So usually we will think, oh, the mind's going to control the body and the body's going to behave. And I'm just flipping the script and saying, what if you have questions that your mind can't necessarily understand, but you can ask your body to give you an answer? And applied kinesiology is just a form of muscle testing where you ask your body a simple yes or no question.
Huh?
Do this with me. You ready?
Muscle
Sure.
testing.
I'm about to explain.
Okay.
Okay, great. Super.
So you can either stand up, and I don't know you have the ability to do that. But the first level of doing it, if you've never really done it before, is to stand up, close your eyes, and say the word yes. And you will feel your body leaning forward. That's standard. And then if you close your eyes and you say the word no, the body usually will go away from what's in front of you.
Okay.
Okay? Yes? Are we agree? You want to try that with me? Tim and Bob, since you're asking me?
No, thank you, but I will try it later. I think we need to stay on points.
Well, but the point is that if you start to build this language of yes, asking yes, no questions, and your body confirms, you have then a starting point of asking, does this serve me? For example, if you have type 2 diabetes and you're eating a green apple versus a red apple, which has a higher sugar content, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're supposed to be limiting your sugars that day, and you eat a red apple that has more sugar than a green apple, your body may say to you, hey, that's too much sugar for now. Okay.
But you would test it before you eat the apple, right? You would test it. I have
You would
red and
like,
green
well,
apple.
Bob, I mean, honestly, we would like you to test, but do we normally test? We don't. Like, oftentimes when you eat beyond we'll give ourselves permission to have it and then kind of like will its effects on our body away and not think about it. And then a body will then suffer the consequences because there'll be a increase in glucose in the blood system, correct? So sometimes when you start to muscle test and your body's so used to you ignoring it, you may not always get an accurate yes, no answer. Most of my clients who don't trust the answer from their bodies when they first do the muscle testing have to do it over time before their body gives them accurate, consistent answers because it realizes, oh, you're listening finally. Then I will give you an accurate answer.
Or is it about how the mind body connection interprets the muscle test? Because people, I think people need to be trained at certain things. They don't just get it like that.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I was gonna make that comment that, you subconsciously may be already doing this and not knowing. You know how you feel after a certain meal. I know certain foods sit a lot better with me than other foods. Like the foods that make you feel heavy and tired and lethargic, you have a much different than and what the purpose of calorie intake is supposed to give you energy, right? Not make you tired. So
Right. I mean, I also have seen people even suggesting, dietitians suggest, oh, if you're going to really increase your intake and your glucose levels, you always have vegetables first, and then the protein, and then the starch of your macro. Right. And certain people, they like to muscle test about what their body wants. It takes the guesswork out of it sometimes. And I have only a certain number of spoons, and I don't want to always have my brain thinking about what comes next. I'll ask my body to help be my partner in what it needs next. And you're absolutely right, Bob. It is a muscle, Tim, that I had to make strong because I was so used to ignoring what my body needed for most of my life. I'm really good at ignoring myself.
So do you
I'm
stand up?
really good at ignoring my needs, seriously. And so it's very imperative that I'm very clear on that. The art of interoception, which is even paying attention to your personal body's needs, is a muscle the general public needs to know that we need to strengthen in each person in ourselves. And
From a
learning,
prac
go ahead.
from a practical matter, do you stand up before you eat, and do you test yourself standing up and test?
I do the muscle testing with the finger because I've been doing it for so long now. I get pretty accurate readings without having to stand.
Can you
People who are
describe
new
that?
to it, yes, I
Can you
can. There's
describe?
2 ways to do it, okay? You can either do the ring finger and thumb, and you would pull with your other hand through the meeting joint area. However, yes, and then when you first establish your yes, you would say yes, and then you would pull through, you would feel the strength, correct, Bob? You feel it?
Yes.
Then you say no, and then you feel like you can pull through, correct?
Yeah.
And yes,
No, correct.
correct, yes, and now say your full name. I am Dr. Bob Levine.
I'm Dr. Bob Levine.
Great. Say, I am Penelope Cruz.
I am Penelope Cruz.
And you can pull through, right?
That's pretty easy to pull through. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, besides the fact that you're laughing. And then for my clients, they'll feel the strength of their positives stronger over time, and then their negatives come faster. Meaning, if someone's really allergic to tomatoes, but they really want to have tomato sauce, they'll do a muscle test if they can have the tomato sauce because it is a different breakdown once it's cooked, and they can tolerate it, and they can stamp a little bit of it. Does that make
So,
sense?
right. So I'm
It's
still trying to get some clarity for the audience, Jenny, and just to make sure. So that I'm not being critical. I'm really trying to get clarity on understanding on this. So tonight I want to eat tomato sauce, which sometimes disagrees with me, but I like it because of the lycopene that's supposed to be good for the prostate gland. So I would take my index finger and put it against my thumb, and I would say tomato sauce tonight. And if it goes through, then no, I don't eat the tomato sauce. If it's
It's a
strong,
good question. I love this question, Tim. First of all, may I ask you, just establish your yes, no.
sure.
You have to, it really is much more successful if people start a conversation before they come to the important question of, well, can I have the tomato sauce?
Okay.
So you want to establish your yes, no. You want to get your body comfortable.
like
When you
it's
ask a
like the
question,
name. It's like the name.
yeah, just say,
Robert
my name
Levine.
is your full name.
Good.
And then my name is Jenny C. Cohen. Like you can say my name. The point of it is that
My name's Tim. My name's Breck Rice. It feels the same to me.
it's okay. That's normal. You can
Yeah,
also
you
do,
need to be Tim. You need to be trained. You're just a little thick.
you got to
That's
be
all.
trained in.
You
Because
know how
Tim,
hard it
like
is to train
seriously,
No, but I'm with you,
right?
Tim. I'm with you. I've tried this so often. But what I'm hearing now, and maybe this is good for our audience, is that you got to keep working it until you can sense the difference. That's the key, I think,
Okay.
right, Jenny?
there is a difference over time.
All right.
And I'm even just hearing the way you're asking the question that you're resistant to this idea. That means that your body knows that
No,
you're not going to.
I'm not
Not
resistant
true.
to
Not
the
true.
idea because I consider myself over time. I've always rightly or wrongly, well, wrong that's rightly, I've been able to sense things in my body that doctors have been surprised, saying, how have you done that? So the philosophy of saying, of understanding your body, being in tune with your body, I'm right with you. I found a lot, I call it a lipoma. I think some docs call it a lipoma in my forearm. I was just swimming one day and I said, I got a touch right here. And there it was. I went to the doctor. They said, how in the world did you find this? How did you know this? So no, your concept of being in tune with the body and understanding the body is there. I'm just trying to understand. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm trying to understand and make sure our audience understands your mechanism of how you.
Thank you for that story. Because my husband, when he got testicular cancer
Mhm.
and he realized that there's something going on, that he needed to go and have a doctor checked out, he's very in tune with his body on the elite workout level, right? And the muscle testing itself, though, he was very not trusting of the answer, is why I'm saying it the way I'm saying. Because there is a level of that's almost the pseudoscience that people think it is. And I'm just explaining that if your mind is questioning the pathway, your body itself, that part of it that wants to give you feedback, will not be as strong until you do it over time. That's all it is. Because just my personal experience, and I'm a dancer, so I know about moving my body. I know about communicating and giving messages and telling stories. And yet to turn that perception that I give to the audience inward into my body took quite a number of time before I could even understand my own body's language. Everyone has very unique needs. The easiest thing is to go to one of you guys and ask you, well, how do you feel I need? And I'm asking the audience to start thinking, hey, maybe I have the answers and I have to tailor the way I listen to my body. Because that's right now where the self-care is going. People asking themselves what really serves me versus just, rotely taking a doctor's suggestion. It's no longer that way.
Okay.
I think this is a great conversation, actually, and very important conversation. I've been trying to figure out how to muscle test for years, and so Jenny. I'm going to continue to work at it, and I'm just gonna trust that the answer will start to come over time. I think I need to be trained. When I played college football, I played football most of my life till I was in my early 20s, and we just smashed ourselves up all over the place. And so it took me a lot of years to even get back to sensing anything. And I still think that even today, I think I have blocks in sensing certain things, and maybe that's what keeps me from being able to muscle test. But I'm going to keep working at it.
Dr. Bob, that's called a concussion.
No. Well, yeah, that too, but no. I mean, it's your whole body. You're just smashing everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah. So Jenny, here, our topic and our discussion is on this body center approach that you kind of become an expert in. A question though, involving it, do you think there are cases where the body centered approach is not necessary and not the primary focus for getting the type of progress that you'd like to get in people?
Love this question because I've had clients that have backgrounds where it's actually not, unless they have working with a therapist that specializes in trauma. Because I'm not a therapist. I have therapy background, has a psychology practice, but I'm not a certified therapist, right? If you are aware that you may have some unresolved trauma, this approach isn't safe for you because you need the guidance of a therapist if you go into any sense of stress. Does that make sense? Now, I really like the fact that Dr. Bob shared that he was doing football, which requires you to almost cut off the relationship between mind and body. Because really, why would your body put yourself in football, right? But your mind wants it, right? So you're going to put yourself through it. I mean, my husband had an incredibly hard time doing muscle testing because he works out like a crazy person. Every morning he self-medicates with his exercise. All right. So if you've had a lifetime of mind over body, just be aware that the muscle testing body first approach maybe not the first thing you start with.
What
Because
do you start with?
you start with things like dancing, because when I say dancing, I'm talking about not ballet, okay? Bob, don't think about yourself being in a tutu. No.
I couldn't even
No.
imagine doing ballet.
Stop that imaging right now. I'm saying
Bob used to be
I
able to
know,
dance
I
like
know Tim's
Baryshnikov.
laughing.
I mean, they have been football players that cross-train in ballet to increase their skills,
Well,
right?
Lynn
You know,
Swan from
right?
Bob was
Steelers.
like Baryshnikov and
I
Nureyev.
know.
That's where
I'm
Bob was
telling
at.
you. So what I'm saying is dance has a form of getting your brain to work in a level that it was actually programmed to do when you were born, before you started going to elite sports. Because there's a neuroscience of dance that helps you become more aware of your body.
Yeah, it's very,
What kind
very
of dance?
got to be very, as you say in the martial arts world, very centered and be a dancer. And being very centered, you're very
Centered,
aware of things.
yes, and the form of dance isn't so much the format has the idea of dance using movement to music. So redefine dance. When I refer to dance, we're not talking about ballet. We're not talking about West Coast swing. We're not talking about Western formats of dance where we have this uniform definition of what's high level versus low level. It's very classist and wealth based, right? I'm referring to movement, to your perception of music, because I have clients that don't dance to music. They dance to bird song. They just move to it to wake up parts of their brain that they literally put to sleep because of their choice of things that they're doing.
I did something very interesting many years ago, natural chi movements, where it wasn't done to music, but I'd get up at like 4:35 in the morning and go into one of the extra bedrooms and had moved everything to the side, and it was just totally free form. And I think that's probably one of the things in my, late early 30s where I was able to start regaining some of the sensations in my body.
You got it. That's the key. If you start to move to what you perceive as safety sounds, your body will start to connect with you more.
Yeah, I didn't move to sounds, but I just moved to feelings and wherever my body wanted to go. I
Yes.
just let it go, and it's interesting, really interesting.
Try doing it to birdsong, which is a universal sound for safety. People are also drawn to sounds of water. I like to suggest music with healing frequencies in it. There are certain frequencies that people are very attuned into naturally.
How do people find out about those frequencies? So where do they go to get that resource if they're interested
It's
in
free
these?
on YouTube. You could just type in healing frequencies and there'll be
Okay,
music that's already married to it because I want people to know that it's all accessible to you.
great, super.
So before we go into the core elements of your approach, Jenny, want to mention to our audience about Brain IQ Pain Eraser. It's a roll-on used by our very own Tim Daniels. After years of knee damage, being a D1 athlete and an avid exerciser, he gets relief with Brain IQ Pain Eraser. It delivers instant targeted relief using advanced nanotechnology combined with powerful natural ingredients that absorb quickly right where you need them. No pills, no mess. Just roll it on and get back to moving. It's ideal for someone with lower back pain, knee pain like Tim, shoulder pain, joint discomfort, and everyday aches and pains, making it a great option for active adults, busy professionals, or anyone tired of being slowed down by pain. So consider using this effective Brain IQ pain eraser because it works, and it works where you need it, when you need it. And try it for yourself today. We'll leave a link in the show notes. So now getting to your core elements, Jenny, of your approach to help our listeners really understand, clearly. And we want to look at its structure rather than the language. And Tim, I think you've got the first question here for Jenny.
Yep. So along that line, so that the muscle testing is kind, and I think that's kind of the language here. But if someone wants to ask you to explain, your approach at a foundational level, what are the core elements you believe are essential, and then what are you trying to help them achieve overall in executing those elements?
Well, I love this question. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Oftentimes, when clients come to me, their outward signs are that they're struggling with breaking a pattern of losing their temper, or they're struggling with establishing a pattern of disciplined workouts. And then we'll sit down and start having conversations about it, like their sleep patterns, their eating patterns, their ability to stay present. The system is to get you to a level of safety, and every individual person will outwardly demonstrate different symptoms. The goal is to have them establish a way to get present. When you're in the present, you can usually understand you're not in danger. If you're feeling subconsciously in danger, which just means that you're either locked in a past memory that you're not aware is present in this moment, or you're worried about the future, which is another form of response that's called when people run away from what they think is a perceived danger. Once you're in the present, and that's not a state most of us like to be in, to be quite honest. Okay, Tim?
How do you know, how does a person know, okay, now I'm in the present, like right now, versus, wow, how do I get to the present? How do they know that?
They tune into their five senses and be able to breathe normally and stay that way for a period of
That's it.
time.
That's it.
Very few
Okay.
people can do that, Bob. Really. Tune
Okay.
into their five senses and just tune into their breath and stay in that state for a prolonged period
What's a
without
long period?
Long.
anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes before you're distracted or need a distraction. Right? And if you feel that that's something that you can easily do, then we will move on to looking at things that you thought were not a problem that could be a problem. I don't ever say, oh, you have a problem. We just look at what could be being in the way. For example, I am Jane Fonda generation. So being a Gen X means that my childhood was fine. Come on. Like you drank out of the water hose. I raised my brother at 4. What's the problem? And then I go, wait a minute. If my 4-year-old had to raise my 2-year-old, that's a problem now. Then you look at what the repercussions of that is. So I can't really speak for you 3, but for me, being 4 and being responsible for my brother at 2 for 8 months is not a normal thing. And what did that open up in my lifetime that I had to adjust? And then how did that correlate with my breast cancer? And
Did you
how do I
figure
deal
that
with
out?
that? I'm sorry?
Did you figure that out?
I did. I served for safety all my life.
How did
So I
it
can
connect?
see.
How was it connected?
It was when I got my breast cancer, it was after my son had type 1 for 3 years. So I didn't sleep for 3 years because I thought he was going to die in his sleep. Then my husband went in for emergency bowel obstruction surgery. Now, prior to that, I had been super vegan, super healthy. I thought I was healthy. And then he went in the hospital and I went into duress and went back into old eating habits, and even less sleep than before. And then about a month after his surgery, I found a lump. Because by that, my body was it was a lifetime of ignoring it. I was just 39. No,
Wow.
just 30. I was very young to get
Young.
breast cancer. No
Yeah.
history, y'all. There's no reason why I should have had it. It's just the stress.
Yeah, stress is a huge input to that.
It's a major killer for most of us. We just
So
don't
if-
acknowledge.
Jenny, if you had to identify, 1 or 2 differentiators, of your concept versus just somebody paying attention to emotion or thought, right? What would you say differentiates your process?
What differentiates my process is just the awareness that it's an all body approach. It's an all body approach because we get disease in our bodies from so many different reasons. There's no one reason anymore. It's not, oh, it's genetic and I can avoid it. It's not just lifestyle, I can avoid it. It's, I didn't see my therapist and I can avoid it. It's all of that combined. And if you're aware of that on that level and you're in direct communication with your body, then you can bypass it. For example, my husband was just in the hospital this past fall for multiple surgeries, multiple hospitalizations. And I was like, oh, we're not going back to that old pattern. I still slipped into it the first time we went in. I'm telling you, it was a reality check. How quickly I dropped everything and made my husband, who wouldn't make your husband number one, but I really started ignoring myself after he came home the first time. And then 4 days later, he went back and I got a little like wake up and like stop doing this old pattern. And we had a whole we had to really shake things up between him and I so that he could kind of get his own health back together.
Let's continue on that same line. When you're working with people in their midlife transition, what tends to change first when you're addressing? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it behavioral? What changes first?
I wish I knew. Because really, honestly, it's so different for everybody. My husband, it was his sleep. Because without his good sleep, he could not retain anything we were trying to help him with. Okay, for Tim, it might be permission to eat that damn red apple, and then we'll just adjust other choices accordingly. Right? For Bob, it might be, Bob, will you just go back to those Tai Chi movements more, but like put on some Frank Sinatra, and that might shift it for you. You
But I don't
understand?
know.
I think it's all of it. I
Bob's
think
too young for Frank Sinatra. He has to go back and put on.
Yeah.
He's too
I
old
have-
for Frank Sinatra. He needs to go back and put on Al Jolson.
who is
You put some
Frank
Al
who?
Jolson
I mean,
on,
come on.
and Bob will get into that.
And then for you, Breck, it might be, because you're very, very quiet on this call. So I don't know what's going to help crack you yet, but I know something. I'm going to get a lowdown soon. My body's going to give me an answer. But just being open to it.
Wait a minute, your body's going to give you an answer?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have permission yet to muscle test for any of you, so I won't do it. But I'm just telling you.
But that's how you
I can muscle test and figure out things for people. But
You have
then
my
again,
permission.
I don't do it without people's permission.
you have my permission. But I think
So now,
But I
Jenny,
think the
know
answer,
we
Jenny,
start-
I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
I think the answer, Jenny, to that question is it's really all of it, and it depends on what are the predominant inputs, but I don't think it's just one and then not the other 3, 4, 5. But it's like, it's like all of it. It's like, 30% this, 20% this, 10% this, 40% that. And, it's all of those things. And maybe it's one is more predominant for a person, but, it's still all of it. You got to deal with all of it, which is that you have to have awareness for everything that's going on with all aspects of the body, mind, spirit, mind, brain, body, spirit, soul connection.
Yes, yes, it really is. I want to give you a straightforward, simple answer, but then that would be actually lying to the audience. There is no straightforward, simple answer. The key is that if you're just open, that you have the answer, you're going to eventually be able to hear it as long as you make that a priority and don't let other people answer for you.
I think it's a great message because I think I believe that we all have the answers within us somewhere. And it's just a question of, can we find it? Can we learn how to tap into that? So thank you, Jenny.
And then that's a good lead in for Bob. I'm glad you teed me up right on this one. It's the answer now, but it's the answer to what, Jenny? And what do I mean by that? I know we started out early on saying if you don't have health, you don't have anything. But your concept and your work here, if I recall correctly and understand it correctly, is not just about people achieving health. It's about achieving some actualization, finding out who they are. What is the full scope of the work and the approach you take with people? What do you see as helping to accomplish?
I'm really grateful you came to this part of the conversation, Tim. I actually got a download just the other day.
You got to explain that, man. A download. Look at it. What do you
Listen,
mean you got a
listen, I want to
download?
tell you something. Okay, are we all on agreement that there is a part of our existence that is associated with the definition of soul?
Sure. Yeah, I
I want to make
believe
sure
that.
we're clear before I
Sure,
start
I
going off,
believe
because I don't want to
man.
have a.
I believe people are spirits. They have a soul and they live in a body.
Do you believe that, Breck and Bob?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
with Tim.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. So,
I'd take it even a step further and say that we're spiritual beings having physical experiences.
all right. Great. I'm glad, because that's kind of important from my definition. If you're not at your maximum connection with your body, you can't do your why. What is your why for this particular existence? I present as Asian American, and there's like stories about how we're actually really celestial beings sent down to the earth experience to like increase our cultivation, to experience all of the sufferings of humans, to strengthen our spiritual selves. But what's the why? Like, what's your why? My why before I became a wife and nursed my husband through his cancer and all of his injuries, and then before I became a daughter to immigrant parents, before I became a mother to twins through in vitro and then survived breast cancer, I took on a purpose that I was supposed to fulfill. And all these experiences were to fortify me with tools. What's your why? Now, some people, it may be to be a past, a member of a church so that they can serve their community, but they can't maximize their impact if they're not at their full strength. Does that make sense? When I was coaching people for dance performances, I would always say to them, just remember, once you are publicly dancing, it's no longer about you. It's about the audience member. Now, you can dance naked in your shower all you want, but once you're out in the public, it becomes a service. What do you open yourself up as a good channel for? So then I ask you, what is your why for being here? And sometimes we won't know until you're fully in communication, mind, body, and soul.
So let's apply that framework to young adults, right? That might be overwhelmed. They may feel disconnected. How are you working with young adults?
I have two living in my house right now. And here's the thing. So I was raised by a tiger mom.
What? Who?
Tiger mom. You know tiger
Tiger mom.
moms? Like, the one you're supposed to be reading when you're first out of the womb, and a genius just by sheer determination from your parents, having nothing to do with whether or not you want to, type of thing. And I ended up homeschooling my kids from kindergarten through to until they went to
Yeah,
college.
high achievers, expecting everything for you. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do that except the sports. They went to Junior Olympics and they were gold and silver medalists at 12, whatever. And then they ended up, finishing homeschool and going to college. And my daughter was just asked to submit a speech for graduation for the University of Utah. The question, though,
Congratulations. Yeah.
well, thank you. And that's her accomplishment. I'm just saying, and they still haven't found their why yet. The goal is to be really clear what and why you're doing it. Now, my kids, they're only 27. We were told when they first enter college, was that like 6 years ago? By the orientation for parents, I said, listen, times have changed. When you went to college, you got one career and that's what you did for the rest of your life. We're letting you know what they major in now. They will go through an average of 5 different careers in their lifetime. Okay. So my only ask for young audiences right now, if you're watching this, is just get clear in yourself. And what does that mean? Who are you? Aside from being a daughter or a son or a sibling, what do you like and enjoy doing in the moment? Because my kids are doing that. My son was a ballet major, so he loves to do choreographies and he's focused on that. My daughter dabbled with engineering, architect, and now she is an animation major graduate. And she just loves the animation aspect of what she's doing. And that's the antithesis of the way I was raised. I'm Asian. I mean, God, what dance and arts? What is that? Like, how do you make a living with that? Right. So
Yeah,
the
you're supposed
key
to be
is,
a doctor, a
I
lawyer.
know,
Yeah.
Lawyer, doctor, own your own business. Don't report to anybody.
right? And they're working on my business. And here's the thing, some of your audience members who are young don't have parents like me. They have parents that need them to be driven, right? And there is permission. You can still be a filial child and still seek what your soul signed on to do. Just be really clear and looking for that. And Gary Vee is always talking about, if you're in your 20s, you should be exploring everything. You have the freedom to do that. Do that. You still explore, right? Because
I'm
that's
still
your freedom.
exploring.
Exactly. Look at Bob. He's still thinking about dancing
And
kinds of
it's
ways.
So along those lines, Jenny, you talked about things shifting with your kids. Now, regardless of your kids and what age, can you share some examples that illustrate how engaging the body differently has shifted some outcomes or shifted directions for some people?
Oh, I like that question. I had a client who worked in research in biology. And in my work with her, she traveled to Europe and took a year sabbatical and opened up her own art studio. Now, she did go back to her job for research in the sciences, but she ended up opening up an art studio for herself when she came back to the States. And she's very fulfilled. And she's someone who never did dance with me, because she had other dance things that she had done in the past and she did not want to explore that with me. I've had clients that
What did you do for her?
some of the things that we discussed, a lot of it was more because she was really familiar with being connected with her body and she was an artist by nature. We did more things that were related to evolved neurolinguistic programming that's equated with what is referred to as timeline healing, and looking at some patterns in her past from her childhood that she had to learn lessons from and then kind of rewrite in her mind so she could take the healings from there and then make decisions forward for her adulthood.
When you say rewrite, you could be saying like reinterpret, correct?
Yes, that's another definition for reinterpretation. So, for example, before I started doing the same healing journey that I help my clients with, it was just avoidance of my childhood, then realizing, oh my gosh, like my parents, like, why did they have me? Because they were too poor to have anybody. They should have just grown up and just saved money, and they still had children, right? And then they immigrated to the States and they just left us with very negligent people, right? And then going back and looking at that, going, they still loved me. They just didn't know how to parent me. And then rewiring it so that now has a parent. And then now when I'm triggered in some way that brings up the past parts of me that feel threatened or unsafe, to be able to look at has the 57-year-old Jenny versus the 4-year-old Jenny. Because a lot of times, even now talking about that.
Feel that being forgiving is vitally important in your process for completing the past, putting it behind you. Would that be something that for our audience to know about, that if without being forgiving, it's really tough to move forward into a new future, and connect with your body, soul, etc.
Absolutely. When you forgive, especially yourself, because oftentimes people forget about that.
Yeah.
There is a grudge we hold against ourselves subconsciously that we forget to do. That's the forgiveness part, because a part of us is angry that we somehow think we had the power to take ourselves out of that situation when maybe you had no power as a child.
4-year-old, no power. What are you going to do?
What 4-year-old can let me just pull
Right.
money out of my butt and save myself? No, I was stuck in, I had gone.
Take responsibility, 4-year-old. Just be responsible, right?
Right. And the thing is, though,
the
the mind is an incredible thing, y'all. When you're in a powerless situation, your mind will rewire it that you have some power and make you responsible in some way so that you can make it to the next minute. That's how powerful our minds are. And the key is to remember the powerful you mind. None of you three are older than 30, I know. So the 30-year-old yous right now, I'm
Hey,
57.
Tim is. I know Tim's older than 30.
Yeah, I
I'm
just turned
57, right? So I revel. I've had so many people tell me, don't tell people your age. I'm like, I'm so grateful I'm 57. It is a privilege. I
Yeah.
can't wait until I'm 70 and telling people I'm 70 years old. Still looking the same, of course, we know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Of course.
telling people, right, that you're, yes, there are parts of me still here, but the present 57-year-old Jenny can see all the parts of you, every age of you, Bob, from baby Bob to teenage Bob, right? To like teenage Breck, right? To baby Tim. I know you're all there. And at the same time, the present you and the present me can still partake in conversations.
Yeah, I'm closer to the baby Breck than you realize. I didn't have hair then either.
Yeah, I was losing hair before the HRT, the hormone replacement. So I'm glad to see the fuzz come.
So
So
I have a
you-
question.
Oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Dr.
Greg.
Bob.
Well, all right. So, you are an integrative neurosomatic coach. So maybe you could explain that terminology. Integrative, I love it. Integrative neurosomatic coach.
So that just is a fancy way of saying all the things we've been discussing since the beginning of this interview. How important it is for your mind. I call it the outside in approach. And outside in meaning outside is your body, your container. So then once that's safe and established and reconnected to your mind, we can work on all those unrecognized patterns and unrecognized hurts that we suffered as children and just reroute it, reframe it so that it becomes lessons and tools for you versus things that are holding you back.
So the neuro part of this, somatic is soma is body. Somatic is body. Neuro, I think the neuro component, doesn't that encompass the mind and the thoughts and
Yes,
right?
your
Okay.
subconscious. Yep, it's
Okay.
your subconscious.
Oh, it's both conscious and subconscious, right?
So we've discussed kind of the early life, but I know, Jenny, that you work frequently with women in midlife as well, right? And so what do you do or what do you see happening at this stage of life that makes, this work particularly relevant for some, but maybe not necessary for all?
It's relevant for anyone over 40. And I dare say that includes the three of you, right? Because here's the thing. Look, in Chinese medicine, they call women in midlife that we're entering our second spring, meaning before we hit menopause, perimenopause, this is outward direction of energy. We're raising kids, we're raising families, we're raising our life partners because we're all kind of kids when we meet each other. And then you hit midlife and it's an inward energy shift, right? You're starting to conserve energy more into your own self-growth and self-care. I include men too, because I see it in my husband. It's this inward turning in of going, oh, I have things I have to really focus on now. Because here's the thing. If you have anyone younger than you, including children, nieces and nephews, grandchildren, grandkids, younger coworkers, you're actually role modeling for them as you're an elder in training. We have very few people of our age role modeling this awareness of self-care because we're showing the newer generation like what they can attain. We have all of these integrative with the GLPs and more ways to read biometrics. They call it now biohacking on how to be young, right? But what is it for? Again, I'm going to turn it right back to what is your why? Because now you have the tools to start achieving. A lot of late onset people, we didn't make accomplishments until we were after our 50s because we had the tools. What are you set to do now? At the same time, not depleting yourself, please. There's no need for us to make ourselves sick. We already did that when we were younger. The time is to rebuild our bodies to last longer. I'm planning to live until I was 150. I'm
Yeah,
only a
me
third
too.
of the way through my life, right?
Me too.
Right? So
I'm only a third of the way also,
I'm
right,
only-
Tim? Yeah. So, but really, look at our society right now. It's a joke how unhealthy our society in the United States is. It's so bad. So, we're all these the people knowing their why. How can you know your why and be 80 pounds overweight and taking pharmaceuticals, a lot of pharmaceuticals, let's say, having all these health challenges? I mean, what's going on in our society, Jenny? What do people do?
Where are you turning your attention towards, though? Right now, there's a march for peace. These monks that started in Texas going across,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Walking every day for hours and
Yeah.
the increased attention of people standing there and just crying when they see them because there is a need for peace. Where are you turning your attention towards? I'm just telling you, yes, I agree with you, Bob. A lot of people are hurting.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people are asking, what's my why? They're like, where am I going to get my next meal from or something like that? Or how am I going to guide my kid when I feel lost myself or whatever it is, I mean, people need what we're talking about here for sure. I'm just not sure how to get it out to the masses. That's what I'm wondering.
You start
So
with
that
yourself
well,
first.
before you answer that, Jen, we're running kind of tight on time here, and that leads us right into our kind of a quick sort of session here. We're not only just talking about a method here, but just as Bob talks about, is how do we give people a way to explore whether or not your perspective is relevant for them? So so what's a low risk way or easy way for someone can start to explore this body based awareness without feeling overwhelmed or destabilized?
Excellent question. You can find any feeling frequencies on YouTube and just give yourself permission to move to it every day. Give yourself a week and see how that feels. You can play with the muscle testing that we talked about in this session. You can do my free master classes monthly at movetobloom.com. You can make a reminder on your phone to tune into your five senses and tune into whether or not you're taking full breaths every hour for the next 3 days and see how that makes you feel.
Okay.
How
It's
And
a
long does that
little
take
how
to
will they
tune in?
find your master classes, Jenny?
If they go to Move to Bloom, MOVETOBLOOM.com, they have access. It's subsidized by nonprofit, so it's free to the public. Every month, it's once a month. I think February 28th is the Saturday this month at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, and we explore all this for them. You
For our
can
listeners, Jenny, remind everyone what the five senses are.
Okay, your smell, your taste, your hearing, your touch, meaning like your butt on your seat, your butt cheeks on your seat, your feet, okay? And then your visual field, your peripheral visual field, all around you without your eyes like moving from lightly focused in front of you. And then you're going to think about expanding your rib cage and your core and paying attention if you're able to do that for longer than 3 to 5 minutes at a time. Because most of the time you'll do that for about 30 seconds and then you'll be distracted by something else in the environment.
Are you saying once an hour? Take 5 minutes and do that? Is that what you're saying?
Take 30 seconds once an hour and see how it feels after a couple of days, how much more attuned you are. And then about what you feel is really important might suddenly become very unimportant to you.
Well, hey, I've got a question for Dr. Bob, since you're our resident brain scientist here, Dr. Bob. When people are moving from self-blame to self-trust, what's that shift in psychology that's happening there? And what do you see some of the potential pitfalls?
Self-blame to self-trust. So to me, self-blame has people stuck in their past. And Jenny talked about this, So when people are blaming themselves, they have to be blaming themselves for something that happened early. And we talked about being forgiving, which is vitally important to completing all that stuff and to go from, being, what do we say, being blaming ourselves to trusting
Trusting.
ourselves. When you shift to when you are blaming yourself and you realize that, wow, I'm focused on past stuff that happened. There's nothing I can do to change that. I can reinterpret it or I can forgive myself and all the other people involved, knowing that being forgiving doesn't mean we're condoning what happened at all. It has nothing to do with that. It's just actually being forgiving is a self-nurturing process. We do it first for ourselves, then for others, and it may not be needed by anybody else, but at least we do it for ourselves first. So when we shift from being blaming to being trusting allows them to have the experience of expressing being confident. Because when you're trusting, that brings confidence forward. It doesn't mean we lose the ability to interpret what's going on around us. Oh, I'm confident it's going to all work out. No, we still have all of our senses and our abilities to interpret, but it's the being, when we're being trusting, it allows for confidence to reveal itself. And then it allows us to move forward into the future more freely. It's like a freedom that people oftentimes don't experience ever in their lives because they're so focused on the blame in the past and what was done to them and, what shouldn't have been done to them. So that's what I say. Blame past, trusting future, and being confident.
Thanks for that.
What do you say, Jenny?
I agree.
I was wondering, you're also a resident expert yourself.
The key point for that addition is sometimes the somatic part of my work is for people to allow to move the feelings that are stuck in their bodies, they move them out through movement. So if you're like, I never really cried except when I was doing a dance format that required more contractions in the pelvis and the abdominal section because we hold a lot of memories in the pelvis area, especially females. So when you're doing undulations and hip work, there tends to be a lot of emotional reactions during those type of classes. And it is for men too, a very vital part of releasing memories trapped in the body.
Yeah, for sure.
So, given that, and we talked about trauma and things in life, and you were very clear early on that for certain things that, people really should go seek out a, trained therapist. So as you look, there's, as with almost anything, whether it's acupuncture, whether it's, hey, I saw this thing back east where this guy was claiming to be a dentist, was actually doing work in people's mouth and messing them up. So the question becomes, Jenny, as and you gave some good thoughts on how people could sample these things and try it out. But let's say they want to engage a professional. What should they look for? What are some questions to make sure they're dealing with somebody who's real and knowledgeable in this area?
All right. Who recently went through this I have a master's degree in occupational therapy, so I certainly understand the need for people having some outside qualifying safety mechanism because anyone can hang a shingle and say, I help you somatically release, having no clue what that means, right? So I think a lot of times you want to look at one, their training. And unfortunately, people can write down any length of time that they've been working, honestly. I've had previous teachers, I would just make up the number of hours and years that they taught dance. And then I would only learn after the first class that they didn't know the first thing about biomechanics, right? You want to know what they're certified in and then whether or not there's some level of board certification or licensure that they have. Certain coaches that work in neurosomatic sciences are board certified like myself. And then there are also very experienced people who are good at telling you what they do, but there's really no proof of it. You can always, if someone's reputable, they should be able to provide you examples of their work that they've given, right? And in this day and age, because we have a lot of AI making up really good
Yeah.
copy for people, really, because I really trust my muscle testing, I'll be like, is this for me? And if my body says no, it's pretty much a no for now. And it's okay to say no to someone. You don't get caught up on the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Be really happy about the JOMO, the joy of missing out until your body really knows for sure. Here's the thing. If someone's telling you they have the answer for you, run away. Because if they're telling you, I can help you figure out what your body needs, like you figure it out, then you might want to dip a toe into their program. I've just been burnt so many times. And it wasn't until I started trusting myself that I started being able to help my clients do that. And then they can figure out what they need. I have a huge menu of things I could do for you, Tim. But unless your body said to me, Tim's body said, I want this and this, I'm not going to be like, Tim, we're going to do this.
Yeah, my body sometimes says it wants a cheeseburger, and I know that, but I still,
Well,
my
that's
body
not your
says that.
body asking the cheeseburger, Brett. I know what. Yeah, it's 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 the memory of that cheeseburger from your past that your mind wants. So you want that damn cheeseburger, right? And your body's going, no to the cheeseburger because you might be dairy intolerant, but your mind wants that memory and that taste. And if you acknowledge that, you can get vegan cheese. There's ways around it, right? Just more having that forethought for it.
So, Jenny, remind our listeners how to reach you, how to contact you.
Please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram under Jenny C. Cohen. Let me know that you're from this podcast. And you can also attend the free masterclass at Move to Bloom, MOVETOBLOOM.com. I also have a Dance to Heal podcast you can tune in on. I'm going to have all of you on it, just so you know. And feel free to message me on any of those modalities and let me know if you have any questions.
Sounds fun. So thank you, Jenny, for being our guest today. Appreciate all of your insight. Today, we've explored a perspective that places the body and the nervous system at the center of personal change. So Jenny shared how she, has come about this thinking and how she is making meaningful differences in people's lives. So thank you for sharing that knowledge with us. and take a thoughtful, discerning approach to everything you do. Like all wellness approaches, context is everything, and what supports one person may not be the right fit for another person. So you got to find out what really works for you. So if this conversation has sparked your curiosity, we'd love to stay connected with you. So please join the Wellness Wave Club. We'll leave a link in our show notes. We want to stay connected with you. And until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, wellness, it's in you.